Okay, so today's video, I want to talk about something specific. This is not necessarily going to be a long form reaction, but I just want to react to a couple of comments made in these two videos made by Coach D Speaks in a debate that Javon Bradley was in. These are two great YouTubers that you should check out, and we're using their videos as a bridge to talk about a sort of social and political issue going on in our country, or just in our community, especially the black community, when it comes to so-called black conservatism. So I noticed something over the years, right? And it got really bad for Coach D. It's even worse because throughout this video, I didn't really find the part, because white people will say this too, because I was in a debate with a bunch of white people about why police officers are bad and need reform, and why a lot of police officers can't really be trusted. And they assumed that my light voice, skateboarding, toy collecting ass had a felony. So it's this idea, right? And Javon in the video I'm gonna come up across in a second, they have a lot of survivorship bias and highly narrativized order of events to justify their white supremacist political predilections. And this really burns me up as somebody that's black and alternative myself, where it paints us all as a bunch of degenerates that can't stay on code, who are anti-intellectual, and who do not properly stand up or defend our own people. And they weaponize the fact that they survive, that they make this amount of money, that they have this kind of job or this sort of success or these political views, and say that the black people that are criticizing them are criminals, losers, or something wrong with them. And I hope that I'm like making perfect sense with what I'm saying. Where often at a time in these conversations they will say, okay, if systemic racism is real, quote unquote, how do I own three businesses? That's if they own three businesses. A lot of these people get on the internet and lie. And you can own three businesses. They don't even have to be successful. You can register these businesses throughout the government, or your state and what have you. And these can just be shadow sort of organizations that don't actually bring you any profit, but you can be a quote unquote business owner. But the point being is that these people will bring their successes to the table, right? And I don't want to spoil what I want to say after these. And then they will try to say, oh, because I'm doing this, that, and the other, that's why I'm this. And a lot of black people don't like me for it. So first I'm going to play some of what Coach D here has to say, and then I want to get to what the black conservative he's criticizing is saying also. So I can build a bridge between what I'm going to talk about after this this prefacing of this video.
Scott and Byron Donalds, so he has to go harder. This dude knows he has to bootleg and buck dance way harder than they have, because that is the level he'd like to get to.
How these other black people are screaming at me and making threats, all because I held a White Lives Matter sign. You all have also seen a bunch of black people in my comment sections calling me a sellout and telling me, you're not really one of us, you're not one of us. Yeah, I know I'm not one of you. I don't have any felony charges. I graduated from high school. I have a full-time job. I have a bachelor's degree. I don't have any baby mamas. I don't have
So that's bad enough. But I also, like I said, the point of me making this video is because I noticed that this was a common thing. And in fact, technically, I heard it 3 times today. And his name is Poetic Flacco. I don't think it's necessary for me to play it 3 times. Playing it twice should give context to what I'm saying before I go on my little rant after this.
I've already named you what a bunch of those disproportionate outcomes are. And now you're just going with, well, but like some black people do okay. Whoop-de-doo, this is called survivorship bias. There were some black people who did.
Hold up. I think it's a little further back in the transcript. Let me see, because I was looking at the transcript to try to yeah, I think it was around the time he brought up one of the dumbest people ever.
It's not gonna be.
I used to have that same view, but when I got to college, I got a chance and I read a book by Thomas Sowell.
There we go. Holy shit. Okay. I knew.
But I think, that's enough, because the other guy video was worse. I don't want this video to take too long. So We already heard Javon say survivorship bias. You have an idea of what the caller has said, and we also know his logic and how he brought up one of the stupidest political commentators that is somehow taken seriously because he defends white supremacy, Thomas Sowell. So I just want to talk really quickly about something, right? I want to talk about black success and the weaponization of that success to prop up or defend a system of white supremacy, and also alternative ways of expressing yourself does not absolve you from the consequences of white supremacy. So number one, right? If you are a black person that is successful and you have made it somewhere in life, even somebody like me where I have no criminal record, I'm actually co-parenting. Actually, I have a nice job that takes care of me, makes sure I can afford a place to stay in a decent vehicle. I can handle emergencies, groceries, get repairs, yada, yada, yada. It might even be bringing in more money soon, hopefully. And then you have a lot of people that are even doing better than this, of course. You also have people who are, and this kind of applies to like a lot of alternative black people, right? Who are into like alternative culture, like anime, cartoons, alternative rock music. And for some odd reason, right? And this is the whole thing because it kind of reminds me of how when people see me skateboarding, they say they remind me of that piece of shit Lil Wayne. But that's a video about right wing skateboarders. That's worth a video upon itself another day. So I guess what I'm saying here is that what a lot of these black conservatives don't understand, right? And this includes people like Candace Owens, Thomas Sowell, and all these other dummies like Tap Dance Tatum, is that black people who work hard and express themselves differently deal with the same racism as the black people making the quote unquote bad decisions. What really bugs me about these people, they will go on to criticize the ramifications of systemic racism and all these policies and social ideas, and at the same time don't do any research or digging, no intellectuality into why these problems exist. And I understand why, because it's very lucrative to go on the internet and say negative and horrible things about black people. But it just bugs me as somebody, especially with the rant the guy came up with earlier, talking about people having felonies, people having baby mama drama and all this other stuff, where the only way a black person can be possibly pro-black is if they actually care and actually care about their community, is by is by being somebody who was lost to the system. And it's like it shouldn't have to be like that, because number one, that's very anti-intellectual, because if we are calling ourselves especially black nerds, and I know that it's some shit-headed black nerd somewhere buried in the depths of YouTube using his nerdiness and his ideas of who he is to prop up white supremacy, because this is severely a black men's problem. You have dumbasses on the internet who are like, well, a black woman was mean to me when she rejected me one time, and then go on the internet propping up white supremacist ideals against black women and their own people. So those people kind of fall into this category too. So to the point of being is that it's anti-intellectual, stupid, and extremely biased to defend a system that's oppressing and hurting millions of innocent people, talk about the symptoms and the outcomes of those policies, and then ignore what got certain black people to that state. And that's even to myself, right? Because I grew up on the Lower East Side of Detroit, and I watched, and I didn't realize it at the time, because I understand if you're like this when you're 16, 17, you don't have a lot of time to really research or learn about other things. But when you begin to be like 21, 22, 25, 30, 51 years old, and you have these anti-black political viewpoints about your own people, it's not because you even have survivorship bias. It's because you're a piece of shit and you're choosing to be a part of the problem instead of being a part of the solution. And as I grow up dealing with a lot of this bullying and watching gang violence, literally was walking to elementary school past addicts and drunks and what have you, going to underfunded schools where it was one teacher to 30 kids in a class, I wondered to myself what was actually going on. Later in life, I researched this stuff, and it turns out that despite me never committing a crime or doing anything bad, I experienced a lot of these problems simply for being black and being born in a black neighborhood. So again, being black causes you to have certain experiences because of what your skin color is, and it has nothing to do with what you choose to do or choose not to do. And these people are always in a black like, you know, conservative nerds, you know, I'm sure Tyrone Magnus would try to make this argument too. They would say, oh, we get made fun of for what we do, when at the end of the day, they have anti-black political viewpoints. And even if other black people are making fun of you, right, that doesn't give you the right to try to prop up a socio-political system that's destroying and harming millions of people, including the white people you claim to care about, just because you went through some things in high school that you are 25 and you can't grow past yet. So like this survivorship bias shit, if that's what it's really called, because I wouldn't even call it that, you know, it's the audacity of people to, again, to weaponize the fact that they've come up with a modicum of success to try to dispute the fact that this system is actually hurting people. And I just wanted to come out and say that every black nerd and successful black man is not out here tap dancing and cooning out for people who don't care about us. There's plenty of black men out here. Javon is one of them, ironically enough. Ebony Warrior Studios, Tony Weaver, where P.O. Boy, where we are extremely different, eccentric for black men, successful for black men. I think Antonio Talks, as the gamer dude, kind of fits here too. And we actually stay on code and defend our community. And you being a little bit different or having some success does not erase the abject failures of this system for black people that has existed, shit, pretty much as long as the system was starting to be propped up 400 years ago. And that'll be the video right there. I just wanted to get that off my chest.